Whenever you do an area or volume question and if the graph is not provided, it is always good practice to sketch out the curve. So the curve is this. I'm supposed to look at the region that is bounded between the curve, x is equal to 0 and x is equal to 1. So it is this shaded region over here, and this region is to be rotated through 2 pi about the x-axis, and the solid is going to be obtained. We are supposed to find the volume of that solid. So the volume is going to be integration from 0 to 1 of pi y square dx. Let me take out pi, so it will be pi integration from 0 to 1 of y square. Y is this, so it is 4x over x square plus 1 square dx. And this is pi integration from 0 to 1 of 16x square divided by x square plus 1 square dx. We are given a substitution, and that is x is equal to tangent theta to help us to evaluate this integral. X is equal to tangent theta, which means that dx d theta is secant square theta. And when x is equal to 0, this tells me that tangent theta is going to be 0, so theta is going to be 0. And when x is equal to 1, that means tangent theta is equal to 1 and theta will be pi over 4. So this, if I were to carry out a process of substitution, 16, let me take it out of the integration sign, it will be 16 pi integration of 0, which is going to be 0. 1 will become pi over 4 of x square, it is going to be tangent square theta, divided by tangent square theta plus 1 square, and dx is going to be replaced by secant square theta d theta. So this is equal to 16 pi integration from 0 to pi over 4 of tangent square theta divided by secant square theta plus 1 is, tangent square theta plus 1 is secant square theta. And secant square theta square, this is going to be secant 4 theta, secant square theta d theta. So this is 16 pi integration from 0 to pi over 4 of tangent square theta divided by secant square theta d theta. And this is 16 pi integration from 0 to pi over 4 of tangent square theta. 1 over secant square is cosine square, so cosine square theta d theta. And this is 16 pi integration from 0 to pi over 4 sine square theta. This is sine square theta divided by cosine square theta and cosine square theta d theta. Cosine square can be cancelled, so this is equal to 16 pi integration from 0 to pi over 4 of sine square theta d theta. And this is what the question wants us to show. And to evaluate this, I'm going to make use of trigo identity again. The identity that I'm going to be using is cosine 2a is equal to 1 minus 2 sine square a. So this tells me that sine square a is going to be 1 minus cosine 2a divided by 2. So continuing from here, this is going to be equal to 16 pi of integration from 0 to pi over 4 of sine square, making use of this identity, 1 minus cosine 2 theta divided by 2 d theta. 2, if I were to take it out of the integration sign, it is going to be 8 pi integration from 0 to pi over 4 of 1 minus cosine 2 theta d theta. This is 8 pi. And integration of 1 is theta. Integration of this is minus 1 over 2 sine 2 theta from 0 to pi over 4. So this is 8 pi. Substituting this in, this is going to be pi over 4 minus 1 over 2. Substituting this in, this is pi over 2 minus substituting 0 is 0. Substituting 0 is also 0. So what I have is going to be 8 pi multiplied by pi over 4 minus sine pi over 2 is 1, so minus 1 over 2. And if I were to factorize out 1 over 4, this is going to be 2 pi multiplied by pi minus 2.